Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about shopping cart theory. This is for game narrative designers or budding game narrative designers out there. It's just something for you to think about. It's a very interesting way to think about and frame morality, both in real life and in video games. The shopping cart theory is a very simple philosophical situation that illustrates people's moralities in a very stark, clear, simple, clean way. So, of course, I love it because it's simple, but it makes you think things and you realize quickly things aren't as simple and straightforward as you might think. So, what is shopping cart theory? Basically, what this is, you're all familiar with shopping carts. In the UK, calls them trolleys. You arrive at a store, you grab one from a corral, is what they're called. You can grab one from one in the parking lot and go in, or you can grab one from, usually there's a corral just outside or just inside the door to the shop. You grab one, you do all your shopping, you use it, take it out to your car, and then you throw it back in the nearest corral. Simple, right? Except many people do not return them. Now, this is where shopping cart theory gets interesting because there's a lot of ways of looking at this. First of all, it is not illegal not to return them. So if you don't return them, you're not going to get in trouble. You're not going to get fined. You're not going to get arrested. Now, if people actually see you do it, they usually look down their nose at you, but a lot of you don't care. Now, it's also an effort to return it, but not much. It's a very tiny little effort to return the shopping cart. Usually there are corrals all throughout the parking lot. In fact, if the effort is the big thing, it's the big reason you're not returning it, it is simple to park your car right next to a corral. Then you can grab a cart right when you step out of your car, and you can go into the store, you can come out with it, and you can put your shopping in your car and then put the cart right in the corral that's next to your car. This is especially important for a lot of reasons people give why they don't return it. But the interesting thing about shopping carts are if you return them to a corral, it helps other people. These people who you don't know them, you don't see them, they probably don't see you, and they will never know what it is you did. So basically, it's an anonymous good deed. It's very easy to do this. It's very easy to return the shopping cart when you're done. But so many people make excuses for why they don't do it. And there's tons of excuses. It was raining. I was in a rush. I have my kids with me. My foot hurts. The store paid someone to do this anyway. Why should I do it? Now, for a lot of these excuses, you have to remember, these people had no trouble getting their cart from a corral. But somehow reversing the order of what they did is impossible for them. So somehow, let's say they have kids with them. Somehow they managed to get that cart, even though they had kids with them. Or if it was raining when they got the cart. It's interesting that they just can't reverse it and put the cart away. I've especially seen people say things like, look, I had a young child with me, and it's not like I'm just going to leave the child in the car while I return the cart. Well, how did you get the cart? And also, if you park right next to one of these corrals, you can step out of the car and there's your cart. So these are all just excuses people make. I've said in a lot of other videos, people love making excuses. I've never met better people at rationalizing than programmers. You want a good excuse that's well thought out and logical? Ask a programmer why they're doing something, and they will give you a rational, reasoned excuse, even though they just kind of felt like doing it. So let's just agree right here that the right thing to do is to return your shopping cart to a corral, but many people don't. So this has led to stores trying to combat this behavior with rewards, kind of like I have talked about how quests should give rewards so that people playing your game do the things you want them to do. Some of them do things like you pay a quarter to unlock a cart, and then when you return the cart, you get your quarter back, which means there really isn't a reward there. There's no reward. You still leave the store with just as much money as when you entered the store, except for what you bought. But more people return carts in that system because if they don't, then they do feel like they're being punished, even if it's just a quarter. So that's interesting right there, that people will, with no reward, they won't do the right thing. But even with the slightest punishment, they will do the right thing. This explains how people act. It explains how they act in real life. It explains how they act on the internet. It explains how they act in your games. And you have to remember this because what's interesting about shopping cart theory is it's such a simple little thing to explain, but it separates people who are inherently good from people who aren't. I'm not saying those people are evil or mean-spirited or whatever. They just aren't inherently good. They will not do something unless they're rewarded in some way, even if that reward is just being praised for doing it, being seen doing it, being paid to do it. Unless they get a reward, they will not do even the simplest nice acts. So now I want you to, before we dive into the game stuff for this, I want you to think about what this means when you're reading philosophy, when you're thinking about religion, or you're getting involved in arguments about politics. Let it sink in for a second that there are a lot of people out there that think they're good, but they won't do the slightest, tiniest good act unless they're rewarded for it, or only if they're be punished for not doing it. That's a bunch of people. I'm not saying it's the majority of people, but it is a bunch of people. So, narrative designers, let's think about shopping cart theory and what that means when you're writing NPCs in your game. It is okay and completely understandable for you to have some NPCs that are just trying to be good, even though they're not getting a reward. You don't have to write a reward in there for them. They're just trying to be good people. There are people out there who do that. Conversely, there are people who act badly for no other reason than they can act badly and they will get away with it. They won't be caught. So once people realize they won't be caught, there are people who do all kinds of nasty things. I've talked about how I don't like sarcastic characters, but a lot of NPCs can be mean and you don't really have to justify it. People are going to get it because it happens in real life. Now, I still think that the best villains that you write for your game are villains who think that they're acting for good reasons. And yes, that's a double entendre. Basically, they feel like their evil acts are justified. Maybe the result of their evil acts will result in something good, or maybe even less evil than another act. But they basically feel justified in doing what they're doing. But guess what? Your regular NPCs can just be people who are acting badly. They don't come up with excuses for why they're acting badly. In fact, you can use shopping cart theory to have them respond. If the player says, hey, why do you got to be that way? Why do you got to act that way? They can say, hey, other people do it. I'm not doing anything no one else does. They can say, I don't care. That's a lot of responses. I've had someone say that to me in a grocery store parking lot when I saw them just throw their cart onto the verge and just walk away, even though the corral was about 10 feet farther along. They just went, I don't care. The whole someone else will do it. You have an NPC. If you see an NPC doing something bad, they're going to someone else will do the right thing. Someone else will fix this problem I'm causing. So all this works. They can even say, like, my knee hurts. I took an arrow to the knee and now my knee hurts. That's why I act this way. And then the ultimate thing is, hey, as long as I don't get caught, why would I care? You can have tons of things for your NPCs to justify their bad behavior. And what I like about this is it makes the player character think, why am I being good? Because you can occasionally throw in quests in your game where they don't necessarily get rewarded for doing the good thing. They get rewarded for doing the bad thing, or they get a better reward for doing the bad thing. And then watch players online justify being bad because of that. This is shopping cart theory in all its glory. And especially what I love, and this is why I like end slides, is if you reward them for doing the bad thing and then call them out at the end of the game for doing the bad thing. Wonderful. Fallout. It's the easiest thing in the world to get a water chip is to go get one from Necropolis and then take off and go back to your vault and say, here's the water chip. Everything's fine. You did it. It's one of the fastest ways to solve that that quest. But then you get called out at the end, because if you don't fix the water pump in Necropolis, all those ghouls die. And you get called out at the end. And you know it's going to happen. The ghouls tell you that's what's going to happen. But the fastest, easiest way for you to do that quest and get your reward is just to take their chip and not fix anything. So I like things like that in games. So if you're writing your games and you're trying to think of cool NPC quests, remember shopping cart theory. And occasionally make the good quest reward non-existent or not as good as the bad one, and see if people still act good, because shopping cart theory will tell you they ain't. Anyway, hope you like that.